Welcome to the Singer's Guide podcast with me, Tessa. This is the show for ambitious singers who want more than just scales and song practice. We'll talk about the things regular singing lessons don't always have time to cover. Because being a singer is about more than just your voice. It's about confidence, preparation, and all the little skills that make performing effortless. I'm excited to be your guide and your fellow traveller as we explore them all. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of The Singer's Guide. My name is Tessa. It is such a pleasure to be here. Today, I wanted to talk about the Singer's Practice Hub, because if you have listened to any of these podcasts, or you're on my social media, or on my email mailing list for that matter, you will definitely have heard about the Singer's Practice Hub, but I want to explain why it came about, why I think it's so special, and what is exactly in it. So if you're the kind of person who likes to have a little nose around memberships before you make the decision whether or not to join, then this episode is for you. And if you're somebody who doesn't have an interest in joining my membership, that's not a problem. But we will talk about the different elements within the hub, why they're there, and why as a singer we should be taking a little bit of time to think about practicing those elements. So whether you're interested in joining the hub or not, if you're a singer and you're wanting to keep improving your voice, then you might get some ideas from today's podcast for some different practice areas that maybe you have been neglecting or just didn't think about. So let's get into it. What is the hub and why have I made it? Well, I'm going to take you back a little way to the beginning of my Masters. If you don't know, I have a Masters in Vocal Pedagogy. Pedagogy is just a fancy word to talk about the kind of practice of teaching. But my Masters was pretty open. I could look at any sort of area that I wanted to. And so when I was thinking about what areas to research, I looked at the singers that I was working with at the time. What did they all have in common? This group of individuals who honestly didn't have that much in common. They came from different backgrounds, different countries, they spoke different languages, they certainly liked different music. There was not really a common thread. So I started with warming up. How could I make sure that all of my singers prepared their voices before they were performing or practicing? And what was it that was getting in their way if they didn't warm up? Was it to do with not really knowing what to do? Did they feel like they didn't have enough time? Were there other things that I wasn't aware of? So that was my first big research project within my Masters, looking at the obstacles to warming up and what were the best ways to warm up. Then I went on and I took that research into a bigger area, which was practice. And this is why a lot of what I talk about is practice, because I did do a lot of study into it. I looked into motivation, what motivates people to practice, how can we increase motivation, and barriers, obstacles, what gets in your way when you want to practice. Following on from that, my final big project was actually in vocal assessment. And that's because that was the only other thing that all of the singers that I was working with within a university setting had in common. And I was just looking for commonalities. But within that, which sounds very specific, right? And if you're not in university or you're not being assessed, maybe that's not interesting to you. But part of it was to work out, what does a singer need to know? The assessment, the test, it tells you what's important for us to learn. And so because of that, part of the research was, well, what is it that singers need to know? And that was fascinating to me because there are so many things, and that will definitely be another podcast episode. And it's why at the end of every episode of the podcast this season, I've been asking the question, what do you wish you'd known sooner? Because there are so many things that we could be learning and are really beneficial to us as singers that maybe people don't talk about. So that was the culmination of my research. What do singers need to know in order to be successful singers? You know, whether that's within a university or within the wide world of being a professional singer. And how can we work on those things? How can we practice those things so that we become better at them? That's the point of practice, right? You do something to get it better, to get it accessible more quickly, to improve your skills. So then I had finished my master's. Hooray, I got some fancy letters after my name, but I wanted to do something with this information. I had a big long list of things that are important for singers to know to help them improve their skills, but also to help them have a long and fulfilling career. I also had a list of things that could be barriers to practicing, warming up, and some of those other things that were on my list. What did I do with all this information? Well, that is why the Singers Practice Hub was born. I needed a space to put all of these things, but I didn't want it to be theoretical. I didn't want it to be academic. I wanted it to be practical, and I wanted to also combine some of the other things that I was doing. So on social media, I was sharing little practice ideas that maybe worked on a single element of musicianship, so a different scale pattern or flexibility or agility, maybe sometimes vocal technique. Within my sessions with singers, I was noticing a need for things that helped with mindset and confidence. So the hub has become a space where all of those things and more live. All of the stuff that I've learned in one place. Nice and tidy. And so I wanted to talk through the different sections of the Singers Practice Hub and how it works in reality. Because as I said, I want it to be a practical resource that supports singers, not a place where you feel overwhelmed with all of the things that you could be learning as a singer. So within the hub, there are lots of different sections of things, and I'm going to go through them. But the first thing that I want to highlight is that alongside this resource hub, which has got lots of different things in it, there's also a community space. So we use Telegram, which is a free messaging service, a bit like WhatsApp, but not Zuckerbergy. And within there, there's different channels to help people be motivated, to cheer people on, to give accountability, and generally create a community, because that is a really important and helpful thing to have as a singer, to feel part of a community, to have that accountability and support from people who are doing similar things to you. I think I've mentioned before on this podcast the gratitude that I have for the people that I know who are doing the same jobs as I do. It is invaluable to have a network of people who understand you and what you're going through, who can be a sounding board when you need advice, and just friends. Really, friends who understand the area in which you work, the kind of stuff you're doing and what you're going through. So the community support aspect of the hub, I think, is a really positive one, and it's something that I definitely wanted to include. And then alongside that, we have the different sections, as I mentioned. There is firstly a section that I've called Fundamentals, and that section contains some of the information that is going to be useful going forward in either singing lessons or within the hub, working with singing teachers, vocal coaches. So it's things like, what is an SOVT? What do we need to think about before we start warming up? What is a cool down? Why is it useful? Vowels, vowel modification, and what that even means. Those kinds of foundational pieces of information that will help you as you move forward through the hub. And then we have 8 main sections of exercises and resources. The first one is warming up, and if you listened to episode 1 of this podcast, you will know my approach to warming up, which is very much based on what do I need, what are my limitations today, and how am I feeling. And then we've got a number of different types of warm-ups that are based on those needs. Again, I went through this in episode 1, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but they are things like warming up when you are low on motivation, warming up when you don't have a lot of time, warming up when you don't really want to warm up and you just want to sing the songs. There is also, if you listen to episode 4, you will be very happy to know, a small section on cool downs as well, to make sure that you are remembering to cool down and making sure that that cool down is helping your vocal recovery. The next main section is mindset shifts. The more you become a professional singer, the more you are going to realize how important having the right mindset is in your success as a singer. And as singing coaches, as singing teachers, we all know that a lot of what our job is is to build confidence. We build confidence by giving people the tools to achieve the sounds they want, so through vocal technique stuff, but also confidence comes from other places too. So this section, the mindset shifts section, has resources to help. That could be journaling prompts to help you uncover what might be getting in your way. There are affirmations, there's mindful coloring. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm just holding up one of the coloring sheets that I made. This particular one has a quote from Maya Angelou. It says, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." And I've colored it really brightly. But I do think that these things can be really important because sometimes giving our brain a little bit of space from the physical nature of practicing vocal technique, for example, helps to consolidate what we've been learning. And so even though it might seem like coloring a piece of paper with a lovely quote from Maya Angelou on it is not practice, I think it can be. It's also really cool because for years I have wanted to make coloring sheets and I didn't know where they fit, why I wanted to make them until I created the hub, and then I realized that's where they live. So they are some of the things that are within that mindset shifts section. Then we move on to singing snacks. If you follow me on social media, you may have heard me talk about these. Singing snacks is something that I created when I was thinking about how busy singers can be and how often we think of a practice session as needing to be kind of 20, 30 minutes or longer. And actually, you can get a lot of benefit if you just take a minute, 2 minutes. And so these exercises are very short. They give you one specific exercise, but you can use that exercise in a number of different ways. For example, it might be the major pentatonic scale, and it gives you a exercise track that you can sing along to. You can do that on an SOVT to warm up, or you could practice it getting faster and faster and work on your agility. Or you might want to use it for articulation by giving every single note its own syllable. I think singing snacks are brilliant, but I would say that because I created them. But they will support you if you have a couple of minutes where you want to practice your singing, but you're not entirely sure what to do. You sign into the hub, you pick a snack, and there you go. There's your 2 minutes sorted. Some of the snacks are voiceless. And that brings us to another section within the hub, which is Voiceless Options. Now, if you listened to episode 5, you will know that I have the Quiet Practice Toolkit, which gives you 3 voiceless options, but the hub has a whole section of voiceless options. Some of the snacks can be voiceless. Many of the mindset shifts are voiceless. And I think this section is really important because within that research that I referenced at the beginning, noise and environment was a big obstacle to why we don't always practice, not being able to disturb people or not wanting people to disturb you, not wanting to be heard. So the voiceless options section is really important within the hub, I think. Another section within the hub are resources. These are like downloadable tools. Things like practice journal pages, posters for music theory, or reminders for warming up and cooling down. These kinds of downloadable things that you can take away, print off, and stick up on your wall. I love creating resources, and I used to sell them on my website, but now the hub is where they all live. So you just pay for the membership, you get the resources. 3 more sections left. Everyone okay? I feel like this podcast might be going on for a bit, but it's because the Singers Practice Hub, I'm so proud of it and there's so much in it. But I want to say it's not overwhelming. Because it is sectioned, nothing feels too overwhelming. And whilst it continues to grow, it is never my intention to overwhelm people. So within the community, there's a channel where I will be bringing people's attention to certain things so that if you need help sifting through all of the great resources on there, I can give you practice pathways depending on what you are looking for. 3 more sections. We've got song work, which support you if you're working on repertoire. So you're working on your tunes and you need maybe some help with tools to work around certain common issues that you may have within songs. Song studies, which are slightly different. These are actual songs that I have sort of composed or created, but they work on specific skills or elements. So for example, within the jazz world, we can often write a new melody melody over chords and create what we call a guide tone melody that helps to get certain sounds in your ears. There's also a song in there that is based on the pentatonic scale, for example. So if you were interested in working on a pentatonic scale and your agility for riffs and runs, there's a song to learn instead of just exercises. And then the last section within the Singers Practice Hub is called Beyond Singing. And this is a big one. This incorporates what I was saying at the beginning, all of those extra elements that you need to be a singer that aren't necessarily voice related. So this section includes things like what to consider when you are rehearsing with a band or ways to practice your stage presence. I think this section is really important as well because so often we don't get to practice these elements. We're so concentrated on our vocal technique that we forget all of the other elements. And yes, that also includes things like filming and creating content because it is a big part of what being a singer is now. So there was a quick, not so quick rundown of all of the sections within the Singers Practice Hub. And as the membership grows, there will be more and more things that can happen within the hub. Things like challenges, group classes, workshops, maybe live accountability. You can also book one-to-one sessions in there at a discounted price. If you're working on something and you're like, I just need one session to ask this question, and it's a bigger question than what can happen in the community group. So once you're in the hub, you get so much support. You get support from the resources, you can get support from the community, you get support from me. Nothing is mandatory. You don't have to do any section that you don't want, but know that this is all backed up with the research that I painstakingly did throughout my master's degree. So I truly believe in it, and I know that it is an incredible resource to help singers to become the confident, independent singer that you dream of becoming. I am here with the Singers Practice Hub to help that. Honestly, I'm so proud of it, and you would be incredibly welcome to join. It's a monthly membership you can cancel at any time. Come and contribute to what is in the Singers Practice Hub. Give your suggestions and those things might pop up too. And with that, I will finish up this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I mentioned it earlier, but if there is something where you're like, I wish I'd learned that sooner, I wonder if it's in the hub, send me a message. Let me know what it is. I'm going to collate all of those answers for the final episode of this season and quite possibly make a resource for it to put in the Singers Practice Hub. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Keep singing, keep practicing. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Singer's Guide podcast. You'll find all the resources and links from this episode in the show notes. If you found